Good morning, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing great, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing so well. I'm glad we're finally making this happen. We've been talking about it for a year?
Yeah.
And, it's on me. And, it's a very popular show and I have a lot of people. And I wanted to make sure I had space for you. And I'm glad you're finally here with me. So it's April 23rd, 2021. It's a Friday. And we're going to talk in a minute about where you are, where I am. It is beautiful out, which means it's beautiful out where you are because we are in the same geographic region, but 100 miles away from each other. Enough with the small talk, Eric. Let's get into it. So love if you would introduce yourself to the audience, who you are, a little bit about what you do and just where you are in the world.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Eric Bedell. I am in Brooklyn. Moved in here about 2 weeks before shutdown number 1, which is a fascinating experience to say the least, I think. I grew up on Long Island in New York. I have been professionally full-time coaching for a little over 2 years now, but I've been utilizing coaching throughout all different aspects of my career that I'm sure we'll get into throughout my journey. And it's been a wild one. And I'm really, really excited to be here and have this conversation with you. It's been a long time coming from connection hour conversations that I've been able to jump in. And man, I'm honored to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. And we're definitely going to get into some of the other things you do, because you do a lot of cool stuff. So I'm going to give you a preview that I will be definitely digging into some things that you do that are not just pure business and executive coaching, because they're super interesting. And I think the audience is going to think they're interesting. All right, Eric. So let's kick this one off. Let's hit it. What's something you nerd out about? If there's anything, I'm not sure if there's anything that you nerd out about, but I would assert that there might be a couple things.
There's a ton. There's a ton. I mean, it's funny. I think anyone that answers this question would probably, if they're really being honest, those things come and go, or they change position or in the priority hierarchy ladder. But at this point in my life, self-development, self-actualization is probably the nerdiest I get. Currently reading, podcasting, anything I can get my hands on, having conversations with other coaches, having conversations with other coaching facilitators. I just love this shit. And so that's a really, really central nerd realm. But I've had and still continue to have other realms that are not weirder, but
weirder,
seem less coach connected. But I sold craft beer for 2 years. I'm a huge craft beer fan. I've been a drummer for a little over, I guess now 21 years. I've been touring a good chunk of that. So I love talking drums, gear, style, players, music in general. I think probably the one. So I do less strength training and personal training nowadays.
Yeah.
The coaching has become more centerpiece, but it's still a part of how I got here. And so I nerd about the physiological components, neuropsychology, sure, but also just on the real physiological level, just super nerd about, I really cut my teeth in supplementation. I worked in a health food store for 2 years and I ran the supplement department.
Sure.
And that's really where I got it, which now, and I don't really advise anyone to take supplements. That's
the thing that I spent a lot of time and energy and made some money doing. I strongly advise you don't do it.
There's a few exceptions, but yeah.
Well, that's a shame because I'm fired up on creatine right now. So
okay, dude, we can talk. Let's talk creatine.
I'm kidding. I'm not fired up on creatine.
Got it.
So I grew up. So I'm 43, and I remember when must have been. Oh man, it must have been when I was 22 or 23. There was something that came out that was supposed to help you lose weight and get muscle quickly. Was it creatine? But it also was not good for you. And for a while it was on the market, and then I think the FDA pulled it. And if you said it, I would know it. It's not creatine though. It's like, it was like an energy type thing.
It was probably ephedrine or
ephedrine. That's it. Yes. Ephedrine. Yes.
Cause it was in, what's that?
It was like speed.
Yeah.
Like
it was in
speed.
The biggest one. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Cause like, even as like hydroxycut was becoming a big one.
Stuff. Yeah.
I don't know if they ever had ephedrine, but like that was like big, probably like mid 90s, early 90s stuff. That's terrifying shit.
It is, man. I still remember my friends like, oh, you should try this stuff. It's really good because he was getting in shape and stuff. And I remember I took it one time. I'm like, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
Like this is not a natural feeling. Like, and so
yeah,
you reminded me of that at the end. And we're gonna dig in on all this stuff too, because I think it's really interesting.
Cool.
And you obviously know about a lot of stuff. I mean, beer, being in shape, coaching, and music. All four of those things are something that I also really like.
I know. So. Yeah. This rules. I'm already excited.
Awesome. So Eric, let's talk a little bit about comfort zone. So, in coaching, we spend a lot of time with our clients. Hopefully good coaches spend a lot of time with their clients outside their comfort zones. You don't generally hire somebody to hang out in your comfort zone with you because you could probably do that for free.
Yeah.
So starting with what's inside your comfort zone.
Sure.
What's something that's easy for you or inside of it that might be outside of somebody else's?
Inside my comfort zone. This is funny. This is like the first thing that comes to my mind is this conversation that comes up often with me and my girlfriend, that she always points out that is like she calls it like a secret weapon that I have. But like, I love meeting strangers and making relationships. Like I like love that. And I know, I mean, I don't want to say I know, but I get the sense that you do based on all of the connection work that you do.
Yes. This is also an answer that is inside my comfort zone. And I've got something for you once you wrap here that I think you're going to find interesting.
Yeah. I would say that's probably the biggest one is like, there's nothing that brings me more like simultaneously more like satisfaction, fulfillment, and curiosity, from like, I love sitting at like the diviest bars talking to a guy that's been coming to this bar for 65 years and like has like had like a really rich experience in his life. And I'm just like, I want to like talk to this person. I just love creating connections like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's probably I would say like the one that comes to mind.
Yeah. Have you ever taken Clifton Strengths? It used to be called Strengths Finder.
No. No, I don't think so. Maybe as it was called Strengths Finder.
It used to be called there's a famous book called Strengths Finder 2.0, and you could take the assessment if you bought the book. I recently got certified in this tool, and it's now called Clifton Strengths. They rebranded it, which is funny because nobody knows it as this new name. But Dr. Jim Clifton was kind of the founder of this whole methodology, and it's really great. And it's, as I hear that, it's funny. There's a strength, and the way the assessment works is it gives you take the assessment, and then it gives you your 34 strengths. There's 34 strengths total. It ranks them from 1 to 34. I'm going to read you one.
I love it.
You love the challenge of meeting new people and winning them over. You derive satisfaction from breaking the ice and making a connection with someone.
Yeah, that lands pretty well.
That strength is called woo, winning others over. It's my number one.
Nice. So, dude, we're going to have a great conversation.
Exactly. Well, it's funny because, like, let me just read you why woo is unique. It's very likely that you regularly initiate serious discussions or casual chit chat with people you've just met. You feel quite confident in your ability to talk with newcomers, outsiders, or strangers. You probably recall times when this gift contributed to your accomplishments or gave you access to influential people. So I would, and I bring all this, Eric, because I would be shocked if that's not in your top 10. And it's also one of the strengths that I have a lot of people go like, whoa, how? Like, it's a strength that is not easy for certain people. Like, just go up and have a conversation with. I'm this exact same way. Like, to me, just hanging at a bar and meeting people and just talking about whatever they want to talk about is like kind of my favorite thing, which haven't done in over a year. So
I know. Well, we will be back to some experience of that soon. But you know, what's popping up in my head is like, I would be curious to see the Strengths Finder profile of like every certified coach. Cause I bet you that woo is in many coaches' top 10. Because
I would say not necessarily.
Okay. I mean, I love this.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm thinking it is because, and it maybe, like you said, not necessarily, but the reason why it seems to fit for me is like, one of the best tools of that I've discovered of being a coach is like the practice of like, staying curious and like always wondering what someone else their view and like, and I think that's part of like the ability to perform woo, right? Is like, I don't want to go to meet a stranger and be like, hey, here's my life. Like, I want to be like,
right.
I want to ask people about what they've been up to. And that, at least that's why I made that connection. But like you said, not necessarily.
And I actually have a little bit of empirical data on this. I've done some Clifton Strengths coaching with a couple of coaches I know. One of the coaches is arguably the best coach I've ever met. That's somebody I know quite well. Her woo is like 30. And I know another coach who's also brilliant. Her woo is 34. It's her last. But she doesn't, but woo is about like the winning others over part. As a coach, you don't actually have to win others over necessarily. She's quite high in some other things that are really valuable in coaching, like ideation, future strategic, which is seeing multiple ways to move forward. But I do think that for people that are high in woo in any profession, it is a tremendously nice skill to have because it means like, and I'm just you don't have any problem networking. Like I have zero fear or stress about networking with anybody. And I know a lot of people do have fear about that. Like, oh, I'm going to a new networking event. I'm like, cool, like, great. Like, let's just do it. And so I do think the output of that is for people like you, like for me, and I'm going to assert you, is that we just don't have any fear of showing up in places and being with people. And that is a valuable skill, but I don't think it's a coaching thing. It's just like an entrepreneur. It's a business thing. It's really valuable. It's really valuable to be able to walk into space and not be nervous. And that's what I got for you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, side note, we'll have to catch up outside of this so I can hear more about the Strengths Finder stuff. Cause I'm just always fascinated by different ways of assessing people's personality strengths and their types. And like,
I know a guy, Eric, I know a guy. Yes. Perfect. Let's definitely catch up.
Perfect. Yeah.
So let's take a look at the flip side of this question and something that is outside of your comfort zone that's going to be inside of somebody else's.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind for me is, right. And I'm also like reflecting on like my Enneagram and like archetype, and like the personality assessments that I've just like thinking about all these things, how they kind of converge in some areas. Analytical skills. Definitely not my forte. Like, we're talking finance, number crunching, data. Like, you give me a spreadsheet and I want to like turn the damn screen off for the most part. Like, and I've like become, I've identified that, and right. I guess coaches, we look for like what's like the low hanging fruit, so to speak. Like, where's an opportunity for me to really grow? So I've really been putting effort into that in the last year. But like naturally, analytical stuff. Not
because we're already on the theme. There is I think when I share this with you, you definitely want to know more about this. There is a Clifton Strengths theme literally called analytic. I want to read this to you and see how this lands for you. You're probably gonna be like, that's not me. Yeah. I am also not high in it. I'm pretty low in analytic too. The thing with the strengths work, it's not that you don't know how, it's that you don't enjoy it and it's not fun for you. So here we go. Analytical. People exceptionally talented in the analytical theme search for reasons and causes. They have the ability to think about all the factors that might affect a situation.
Hearing it that way, that aligns a little closer with me. So maybe the term I'm using, analytical, at least in the context of StrengthsFinder, maybe it's not right. Because like, I love looking whole picture. I love like trying to find cause and effect. Like I really light up on that. So maybe it's more like, I don't know.
We'll talk offline, and I'll have you take this and we'll see where you land on that. Because
love it.
Yeah, because it's how about this one? Consistency. People exceptionally talented in the consistency theme are keenly aware of the need to treat people the same. They crave stable routines and clear rules and procedures that everyone can follow.
What's fascinating there is like, like the definition gives me like a little ooh. Whereas that term is like central to my like philosophy. I mean, as like a personal trainer first, as a person who got into fitness, like consistency is the reason that I'm able to like, I'm just autopilot completely in terms of nutrition, training. I don't even, because it was such a consistently trained thing. But the definition you just said, yeah, man, I love free flying. I love the ebb and flow, right? That's like that's
so, and then we're spending a lot of time on this. So I promise the audience I will stop talking about, but you can tell I love this stuff.
Yeah.
Consistency. Same. It's my 34. It is my least. It is not something that I enjoy either. And it's very actually common for people that are high in influencing themes, which was an influencing theme, the opposite. And it's a very important theme it's a very important theme to have in the world, especially when you run large organizations and you're operationalizing things. It's just, I don't like the rules. And what it comes down to, consistency is all about, do you like having people give you rules? Do you like treating people the same? And I just don't. Like, it's not something that's natural for me, which I think, I think also, I'm excited for you to take this and for me to review it with you, because I think you'll be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And that's what's cool about it is a lot of this isn't the words you think they are. So it's like, you're like, oh, analytic. That means that I like love to look at spreadsheets. It's not actually in the context of the assessment what it means. And it's more of an elevated picture of what that means. So very cool. All right.
Yeah,
so I'm not going to talk about Clifton's strengths anymore this episode, because I feel like
well, for anyone that's like listening to this, that is really into this shit, they're going to probably like this, but for other people that are like, get on with it. Like,
get on. We want to hear about beer and music, man. What's up?
Let's roll.
All right. So Eric, I give you 5 minutes and you get to deliver a speech, and the whole world gets to hear it. Everybody who wants to hear it can hear it, be online, be in person, whatever it is. You're at Central Park on the stage. What is it that you would talk about? And what is your call to action for us in the audience?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind is like that 5-minute speech concept or topic could change daily.
Oh man, I've never had anybody say that. I'm so curious about this.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm just like, I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole here, but like, I just, I'm such a proponent of like continuously seeking development, growth, whatever. But I'm also like in terms of growing, but also in terms of like understanding yourself more. And like, I think that like can be a little turbulent, but it also can be like, you're constantly shifting your focus, I think, and like your priority listing and whatever. But anyway, on task.
Well, I've got something for you here that might help you out.
Okay, go.
What would you give your speech on today?
Perfect.
Because you said what would you give your speech on today? And I just want to caveat this. No matter what speech you give, it has to be ended with a badass drum solo. Like, that's the only requirement I'm going to give you. You're like, and I'm done.
Honestly, I love that. But it can't be started with a drum solo.
No, because then it's like people just want to hear more drums. They're like, I don't really care about the student's speech. I just want to play drums.
I'm just like imagining getting tomatoes tossed at me after like getting off the kit the first time. It'd be like, what the hell is this?
You're like, why are you stop playing music that I like? Why are you talking about something? I want to hear. I'm here for the
all right. Accepted. I will play only at the end. So today, in this moment, the biggest thing that I think would be valuable for me to spend 5 minutes communicating on would be like the concept of like, especially in Western culture, but I mean, I think it's like a kind of, after this past year, I think we've seen how much more united and aligned the world is at large, at least in terms of like those that are able, capable of being connected via technology platforms and whatnot. But like, I think it's so easy to continuously be searching and seeking for things outside of ourselves. And probably what I would speak to is encouraging people to just like really, really lean into inquiry, and like especially self-inquiry, like question, right? And like as a speaker, question what I'm asking you to do. Question, like, because the more we do that, the deeper and deeper we get to the core truths of ourselves. And right, as a result of that, the more people, the more individuals become aligned with like really who they are and what they are after. I think it'll be a net positive result in that, like, right, we'll have like huge communities of people that are more aligned. And I think that just gives way for just generally a more compassionate, more empathetic, more empowering like planet. So yeah. All right. There's my speech concept.
There it
today.
is. What's your call to action?
Who are you?
And then you would go and play the Who song.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But you'd be like, who are you? And then you go, and doesn't that have a really killer drum intro?
Yeah.
I think it does. Or does it? Or no, it's got the it's got the keyboard.
Yeah. It's got the really strange synthy, like,
right.
Yeah.
But then I think it has like a pretty intense drum thing that comes in at some point.
Yeah.
It's like the Pete Tot, like the and it's like yeah.
It's actually a really similar. I mean, true drum nerds are probably gonna roll me over the flames for this one, but like it reminds me a lot of the Phil Collins ultra famous gagoon. Like there's a similarity there. In terms of the phrasing. Anyway,
do drummers not like something in the air tonight? Like they don't like that part. It's so famous.
I think if you don't like it, you're missing the importance of it.
It's a great, I mean, on this note, and this is off your speech, but before we go to commercial break, did you ever see the video of the kid who was deaf, who they restored his hearing, and that's one of the first things he heard? And he it's super cool. I'll send it to you. It's yes, like, because he's like he's just like, oh my God. Like, can you imagine not hearing and then being like that? You hear like that. It's super cool. So I think about it.
That's incredible. Yeah.
I mean, for the audience, you can look up, I forget what you'd have to Google, like Air of the name of the song is Air of the Night, or I Can Feel It Coming? I can't remember.
I'm embarrassed that I don't know.
It might be I Can Feel It Coming in the Air of the Night. I can't remember. I don't know. And I like the song. And it's actually, that song is about his divorce. I was reading about it. It's like I can feel that things are not going to go so well here. But yeah, we geek out on music all day, my friend. Well, we're going to take a really brief commercial break.
Cool.
And we'll be right back after this.
The Talking to Cool People podcast is brought to you by Jason Frizzell Coaching. Jason works with amazing people who are looking to find and develop their passion and purpose and create their journey to wherever it is they want to go. Check us out at jasonfrizzell.com, Facebook, or on Instagram. Jason loves hearing from anyone who thinks it would be cool to connect, to be coached, or to be a guest on our show. Email him at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com or DM him on Facebook and Instagram. And now, back to some more amazing conversation on Talking to Cool People.
Okay, Eric, we are back. And I think you and I have decided together that we have to do something for the first time ever on the show. And I think most people know what we were talking about before, but I hate to leave people in the audience wondering, like, what are these two music guys talking about? So I'm going to play you the segment that we're talking about before we get into hearing more about Eric. So here we go. I'm going to give you 10 seconds of Phil Collins. The name of the song is In the Air Tonight. I love being right because that's what I thought. So here we go. Right here. Classic.
It's classic, and it's also like, I bet definitely any millennial, if they hear that song, all they think about is The Hangover and like seeing Mike Tyson like air drum it. It's
it's so good.
Which is a treat all in its own.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. All right, so Eric, now this is the part of the show where I like to have my guests just kind of share anything they want. So that the question I ask is like, what do you want the audience to know about you? And I leave it open-ended for a reason. So that's my question for you, my man. What do you want the audience to know about you?
That's a good question. It seems like you're a coach.
I'm a coach. I'm a music guy.
We're many hats.
Well, many hats. Those two hats. A music guy and a coach. And that's it. And a podcaster. Let's not forget I'm a podcaster. So.
Right. Yeah. What do I want the audience to know about me? Actually, maybe that's perfect. That's a brilliant set. I love synchronicities, first of all. You just gave me what I want the audience to know about me is the same thing I want the audience to know about every other human on this planet. Is that whether we choose to believe it or not, we are all ridiculously multidimensional people, and no one thought, statement, belief, action, practice, hobby, job, no one thing defines anybody. And the more we aim for those definitions, the more we are, I think, cheating ourselves of like all of the amazing shit we can experience in the average 85 to 90 years we have on this rock. So yeah, I mean, I am a coach professionally, and
So when you say you're a coach, that's how you pay the bills. That's what you spend the majority of your time generating revenue, spending your time learning about.
Yeah.
Now.
Yep.
Now.
Yep.
Yeah. Got it.
Well, it's also, I think coaches have a unique privilege, where like I can say I'm a coach professionally. That's how I pay the bills. That's how whatever. But I think coaching is one of the real amazingly self-rewarding professions, in that it's like you, right? Like I know you're familiar with like ICF competencies and stuff. So like, right?
Very familiar.
Yeah. Like a coach is someone it's a self-regulating profession.
That's right.
And like, I think, like what I mean by that is like we're self-aware enough to manage ourselves within a client conversation or whatever. Maybe, hopefully, that's the competency. But like, yeah. I think the beauty of it, when the harder you lean into like being a coach professionally, is it just becomes it starts to saturate into all areas of your life and like how you view the world. I think, at least from my experience and talking with other coaches, is like you start to take those philosophies into the way you view everything.
Totally. Yeah.
So what was the question again? I don't know.
Eric, I'm going to coach you on your beautiful artistry and not answering the question.
Yeah.
You actually, I love this, because the other thing in coaching, you're always listening. Like you say, you only really have two tools: your mouth and your ears, and you should be using your ears more. I asked you what the audience know about you, and then you answered your philosophy on the world, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's inspired me to actually ask you some very specific questions about you because I'm curious because I don't know these answers.
Perfect. I love it.
So this is a good example of not coaching because I'm going to guide you. I'm going to freaking guide you right where I want you to go.
Do it.
So I'm actually interested. And by the way, for the audience, I don't know the answer to any of these questions. So this is the first time we've had this conversation. I'm really curious about your music career. I'm always really fascinated by musicians specifically. And my first question for you around that is what led you to the drums is my first question about it.
It's a good question. The surface answer is every other spot in the 4th grade band was taken it was taken. And so were almost every other spot.
That's great.
I couldn't have gotten into it. I got into clarinet.
Bro, you could have been the best punk clarinet player of all time.
Dude, I would have brought new levels to ska.
You would have been the best and also the only punk clarinet player of all time.
It would have been pretty cool. Although now I'm just thinking about what's his name from Serendipity who plays the oboe and how like badass that is for a segment. Are you familiar with that?
No, there's a
dude.
Oboe?
I'm blanking on his name, but he was I think his longest running stretch was on Sex and the City. But he was like the oboe player, this boyfriend. This is like a really weird tangent, but like he plays like he plays like the oboe, and it's like hyper epic music, and like he makes a music video that looks like it could have been just a scene extracted from Braveheart. It's so ridiculous.
Fast. I got to look this up now.
Yeah,
we're giving each other all sorts of. I
love this
archaic
I love it. References and weird. All right, but I'll do the right thing. I'll for the sake of this conversation, how did I get into drums? It's funny. There's just always been this like rhythmic thing in me. And I remember, I just loved dancing growing up. I loved like moving to beat. And I remember I was probably 10 and my aunt Lil, I love her so much. She we were visiting her and I was just, as per usual, just like tapping on every surface.
Yeah.
At 10. And she just like looks at my parents. She's like, you got to get this kid a drum kit. This is like insane. Yeah. He's driving me nuts. And I know he like needs an outlet kind of thing. So she was like, sort of like and my parents were amazing. And they're like, yeah, you know what? Like throw some extra carpet in the basement and you have some space to like whatever. And I spent hours and hours and hours just with headphones on playing along to every song I loved. That's how I learned to play.
Yeah, that's amazing. Who's your drum hero?
Similar to like the speech question. I think that ebbs and flows, that changes, but sure. I think the most consistent is probably Thomas Pridgen.
I don't know Thomas Pridgen.
He's like most recognized for like being one of the drummers at the Mars Volta. But he's all over the place. He incorporates like gospel chop stuff, jazz. The way his style of playing is something that always influenced me because he's like, he can be like super like stupid articulate, and he's like a powerful drummer. But also the classics like Buddy Rich. Mm-hmm. And, I think any drummer who has ever played a triplet in their life loves John Bonham. Like,
of course, yeah.
But also like new guy, like I love Eloy Casagrande is the drummer from Sepultura.
Okay.
Which is like, it's a pretty heavy band, but like he is fucking nuts. He's nuts.
Yeah.
I love how I love people that like play. It's like just all out, and can still be articulate. That's
You're reminding me. Well, let me first share what blew me away. I've seen The Police twice, and the Stuart Copeland plays with. I'm like, he's not a drummer. He's a percussionist. I'm like, what are these things on the side? And they're like not drums. They're like
rototoms.
Rototoms. But
I think he was one of the first.
Have you seen them? Have you ever seen The Police? Have you ever
No.
seen like a video of them?
Like, oh yeah, not live, but yeah.
But his set is like, I'm like, dude, you need like a chair that like moves you around to get to this thing. It's huge.
Yeah, I'm blanking. Who else is coming to my mind? And I'm like blanking right now. Not Neil Peart, rest in peace. He had a pretty big setup too. He had like
Rush.
Yeah, he had like the big gong behind him.
Yeah.
Usually, but no, who am I blanking? But anyway, yeah, I know what you're saying. Like to have a setup where you like your throne needs to be able to rotate like almost 360 is just crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't think if I remember right, and I saw them probably 12 years ago now, I don't think he just had to rotate. I'm pretty sure he had to like move, like he had to get up and go places to do this. And he was like standing and playing. He had like I think they call it like what are the like standing tom? He had standing toms. He had a massive kit. He had like the roto things you're describing. It was really cool.
Yeah. I mean, Copeland. I mean, we could talk about all sorts of stuff in here, but like I always loved him because he walked in between genres like all the time throughout songs. Like he's so influential in like what the Police sound like. And the irony is like, yeah, we talk about these drummers that have like all these like crazy skill sets and like have crazy setups. And like, I'm a real minimalist. Like I like a real standard 4-piece kit. I have like a ride, a crash, and I've been playing with a ship's bell for about 12 years because of Fugazi. It's a long story, but anyway, yeah.
Last question on drums. What do you think of the movie Whiplash?
All right, so I'll be honest, I haven't seen it fully.
Bro.
I know. It's tragic. What? It's tragic. All right, here's the thing. For a while, I didn't have, when it came out, I had no like paid subscriptions to watch shit. I had cable. I had nothing. Right. So I was like trying to hijack like family members and stuff. And I was on a plane and it was one of the available options to watch on the plane. And like, I don't know about you.
Small screen on the plane?
What's that?
What did you on the small screen on the plane, like the little
behind the seat,
which doesn't do any movie justice at all.
Of course, never. But I was like, at least I'll watch it. And then like, I don't know about you, but like 10 minutes into takeoff, I'm just asleep.
yeah. I am. You and I are fortunate that I am also one of those people because I'll be like, I can't sleep a wink on a plane. I'm like, dude, I'm out. Like, I'm done.
Out.
Oh, please do me a favor to watch Whiplash. It is one of the. I wouldn't say it's a top 10 movie of all time, but it's a phenomenal film. And it's just about drumming. It's all it's about.
Yeah.
And J.K. Simmons' character as the drum teacher he won an Oscar for it. He's insane. And I'm saying this because Miles Teller, who plays the lead character.
Yep.
There's a scene where he's practicing so hard and he's a great drummer. He's like bleeding. And I'm thinking like people to play hard. There's a scene where he's playing it so hard and his hands are bleeding. It's amazing.
I owe it to anyone that's ever played drums. I think watch that movie because I've heard nothing but amazing.
It's an amazing film.
I've watched like the performance segment, like at the end where he's like performing. And he goes, he goes to like shut him down, and then realize he's just like, no, I'm fucking taking this. Like I'm taking it. So you better back up. And watching like there's so much beauty in. Like you can kind of tell in that like scene, he has just removed himself and like the drums are just playing.
Yeah.
That's like, at least. And
all feel, right? It's like at that point, you've done your time, you've done the practice. It's just purely a feel thing.
Yeah. You just put the key in and go.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, you ready to take the host reins for a couple minutes?
Sure. I love it.
All right. Eric, what do you want to ask me that I can answer for you and for the audience? Your smile makes me like, oh God, what's coming?
Well, I'm like, as any conversation you have with someone, even though we've known each other for a good bit, and like, I know a decent amount about you. You do a little extra research, and you're like, should I make it something grounded in his background? But like, I given all of the things that I know about you, I mean, I'm really just most curious. Like, I want to keep it pretty vague, and I'm just like,
yeah.
I really want to know what drives you daily.
Mm-hmm. You're playing right into my hand, my friend. I love vague questions because I think we've talked about this. Maybe you and I have. I'm not someone. I don't like a lot of rules.
Mm-hmm.
So the more specific a question is, the more I'm like, I like rebel. I don't rebel. I'll answer specific questions, but I actually like a big playground.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very vague thing. So what drives me? Do you want we're going to do coach talk. Do you want the content?
Yeah.
Do you want the content or the context?
I want the first thing that comes to you.
Fun.
Mm.
That's actually what drives me. That's actually what I'm committed to. And I've shared this on the show a few times. I'm committed to a lot of things, but contextually, and what I mean by contextually is not say I'm committed to being a dad. I am committed to being a dad. That's the content, right? Like I am committed to being a dad. It's factual. The context of my life that I am committed to more than anything else. And I will say it, I think this show is the perfect example of the output of that. So if I had to boil it down to three things, I'm committed to excellence, I'm committed to connection, I'm committed to fun. And of those
connection, fun.
And of those three, if I had to pick one, I'm committed to fun. Because what I find for me is when I'm having fun, it all falls into place. And when I'm not having fun, it falls apart. In almost everywhere in my life. I can point at almost everywhere in my life. My corporate career and jobs that I found fun, I had a ton of success. Environments that I didn't find fun or jobs I didn't find fun, it wasn't that great. As a married person, I find when I'm having fun with my wife, it's awesome. When we're not having fun, and we've had this conversation recently, it's not that great for me. Like I'm just really committed to fun. And people that know me will be like, Jason's a fun guy. That's because I'm really committed to making almost everything in my life fun. Even knowing that, yes, there are things that are not fun. So for example, it's April 23rd. I finally, much to my accountant's, and you'll probably resonate with this, I finally pulled all my numbers for my accountant because, when they announced that it was going to be pushed by a month, that's like my dream is like, yes, because I hate things like pulling like spreadsheets and numbers. Yeah, forget it. But even making that fun, like gamifying things, what's going to make this conversation fun on my podcast? What's going to make my coaching practice fun? Like what's going to be fun for me? Like, you've probably seen this. I do LinkedIn videos now and I do some social media stuff. Like if it's not fun, I don't do it. Like I actually have a saying in my life, if it ain't fun, I ain't doing it. Meaning that if, and you'll see this a lot, there's a lot of people in the space that sells to people like Eric and I. Here's the system and here's how you can scale your business to 7 and 8 figures. I'm like, 8 figures? Like you should be doing something else. You should go be in private equity or be in venture capital. Yeah. If you can make a solopreneur and schedule that and scale me to 8 figures, $10 million a year business, that's insane. Like, is it possible? Sure. But things like when I see things like that, and I know, and there's like a system or process I'll talk to people about these things, or when there's like, hey, would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? Would you like to invest in this program? It's gotta resonate as fun for me. Like my radar is around fun. And so, for example, getting certified in Clifton Strengths, I think it's really fun. I think that's obvious. I'm passionate about it. Getting certified in a tool, hiring, like I recently hired a vocal coach because I wanted to work on not on my singing, but on my speaking for the podcast. Just I think there's a lot of power in that.
Is it Paul?
It's not Paul.
Okay.
It's Darcy.
Okay. Yeah.
A guest on my episode.
I saw.
And you listen to that episode and you tell me that woman is not fun. Darcy is a barrel of laughs. And so my lens, and for anybody who wants to sell me anything, there's a lot of people who try to sell me stuff. It's got to feel fun to me or I'm probably not going to want to do it.
Yep.
Like I had a session with my coach today. I've been with him for almost 2 years. I find our sessions fun. Well, I enjoy spending time with him. And so for me, number one is fun. That includes, as we have a 5-year-old and a 6-month-old. I view most of the things I do with them, especially the 5-year-old, is it's got to be fun. So recently, my daughter really wanted the 1,800 piece Yoda Lego set because she was dying to get it. It had nothing to do with me. It was purely her. And I'm being
first of all, I got to interject just for a second. How tall is an 1,800 piece Yoda?
It's like, for those and most people are going to listen, it's probably like maybe 2 feet. It's pretty big.
That's
it's
a giant Yoda. Yeah.
And he's holding a big green lightsaber. So the lightsaber is even taller than his head.
Anyway, sorry, continue.
But like those things, when I'm spending time with her, it's like, how can we have fun?
Mm-hmm.
Play games together, and like, how do we make this fun? So at the end of the day, that is the thing that motivates me more than anything else, is making it fun. This podcast is a perfect example. When I created this podcast, I'm like, how can this be fun for me and hopefully fun for the people who want to listen and for my guests? And that's the lens. If this ever stops becoming fun, you can be assured I will do no more episodes, because I'm like, what's the point? The good thing for me about this podcast specifically is become more fun. It's become even more fun as I've like come into my voice, a lot of guests who want to be on, and just figuring out what to make it even more fun. Like even what I said a little bit ago, like, hey, let's play the music after the break. Like to me, that's fun. I don't know, it's dumb, it's easy, but it's fun. Like, hey, let's actually bring this up and let's do it. So long-winded answer to your question is fun. That's what motivates me.
I love it. But here's what struck me. First off, I can totally see that now. Like that makes a lot of sense in terms of the conversations we've ever had and how, where and how I've seen you show up. And like, but it's interesting. I asked what drives you, and you used the word, you said, I'm committed to 3 things: excellence, connection, and fun. And then fun, fun was the last one you listed. And then you thought through it and it became the top, which I'm always interested in stuff like that. But when I asked what drives you, you said, I'm committed to 3 things. And what was interesting was that, like, right, you were just explaining to me, I like to not have the rules be given to me so clearly. And like my accountant's like, where's your shit? We got to go through your numbers. But yet use the word committed. And that to me feels like structured in a sense. And I'm just like I'm interested to hear like why you phrased it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the actual answer to your question is what drives you is having fun. That's the actual answer to the question, and not just fun. It's having fun.
Yep.
So I should have been more clear about that.
No,
the reason I use the word committed is it's probably a little bit of jargon, because this is what we spend a lot of time talking to our clients about. Like, what are you committed to outside of your circumstances? What do you do? Like, we're all going to have to do stuff we don't want to do. What are you actually committed to? Oh, I'm committed to building. I'm committed to raising capital and going public. Okay. Knowing that there's a long way between starting a business and getting there and anchoring to that commitment. And so for me, I use commitment as an anchor for me. And I use those 3 things as the overarching commitments to look at the more tactical and the doing things, right? Like and so the reason I use the word committed is it's my lens. And I'd say, hey, like this podcast, do I see how this is going to fit inside of my context of excellence, connection, and fun? Podcast is pretty easy. Excellence is, very debatable depending on who's listening. You can see that it's a connected environment, and it is, for me, that it's fun. I feel connected and fun with you. So
love that.
But this applies to even things like marketing my business. So there's a million people who want to teach you a million different ways to be a coach and market your business. And here's the system that I'm going to teach you how to do it. And great. And some of those things I'm like, no, it doesn't feel connected to me. It doesn't feel fun. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. LinkedIn automation. I will not do it. I won't do it. I won't do it.
Like, I used it for 1 round. I did Linked Helper, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's called. Yeah.
Right. I won't do it.
It was I'm with you. I could really relate to that. It felt ugly. It felt the opposite of connection. And that's the irony, right? Is like, right. What do you call someone you match with on LinkedIn? It's a connection. And you're like, I couldn't feel less connected by using an automated, and it's, I hate receiving them.
They're horrible. It's horrible. And hey, like I am, it's funny that we're talking about this, because part of what I do is I do sales and marketing consulting, and I'm a huge fan of automation. I'm a huge fan of scale, and those sort of tools are great for scaling for others, but it's not something I want to do. And I'm also not selling a software package. I'm not selling a thing that you can go read on my website. Like, you really need to have a conversation with me. And so that we can see if it's a good fit, because I'm committed to connection. And so just kind of wrapping this up on, because I actually think this LinkedIn thing is a perfect example of, it's not fun for me to send it or receive it. I don't find it fun. It's completely disconnected. And I guess you could argue that it's excellence in that it helps you scale and reach more people. But I also think I could assert that I have much more success the other way around by actually just doing things like lunch club, networking groups, and actually having a connection with people, as opposed to blasting 1,000 people.
So, right. And this, I'll play with that just for a sec, and then we can maybe move on or do whatever. But like, the idea of excellence to me comes back in, I assume anyway, I usually don't like making assumptions, but like, I assume that the idea of excellence comes back into here because like, yes, like you said, you can use it to grow and scale, but what's the quality of the connection? And that's excellence to me is about quality. And so like, lunch and learns or whatever, like you have a conversation with someone like,
I do lunch. I don't know if you do lunch club. I love lunch club because it's me and Eric connecting for the first time and getting a chance to know each other. And I've had podcast guests from lunch club. I've got a few people that I consider friends now. I've gotten hired from lunch club because that's like, and to me, that's my excellence. And it's also my strength is to go and meet people one-on-one. I just want to go on the diatribe for the LinkedIn thing for a minute and give you something around this. I'm going to give you all a pro tip for anybody else listening who also hates like the LinkedIn automation stuff. There's a way to break it. So what you can do is when you get sent, well, you know how it works, right? Like you get hit. If you respond, there's an automated response and they basically go into a sales funnel. And I'm all about that stuff. It's not for me personally, but I get it. You can break it, but you just send them back an audio message using your phone. There's actually in LinkedIn, there's a little audio you can like.
I send a video responses too.
Video response. Yeah. Like, hey, like, really great to connect with you. You're interested in working with me as a coach. Like, like what led you to, like wanting to work with coaches. And if somebody and by the way, if anybody wants to sell me anything, when people respond to me, I will connect with them. Like if I get a human to human connection, because I believe, like, I love people. So I'm like, hey, cool.
Agreed.
But if I just feel like I'm dealing with a robot and I want to end with this, that I think you're going to think it's hilarious. I got this about 6 months ago. I'll always remember this. I got a LinkedIn message and it was, hey, blank. I know that you get a lot of messages on LinkedIn, and I want to assure you that this is a personal message. I help X do Y, ... I'd love to connect with you sometime. Do you have a few minutes? Sincerely, insert name here. I have a couple things. I have two things about that. One, I am never going to book a meeting on your calendar when you send me a marketing message. Like, I'm never going to be like, oh my God, Eric, yes, I've been waiting for your message. Hit your Calendly.
Yes.
Without knowing you. Like, I'm just not going to do it. Two, you know me well enough to know, guess what I did?
Did you send it back with the things filled in?
I wrote it back and I said, hey man, like, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm a big fan of scaling. I wanted to give you some constructive feedback on thing. And I said, just to let you know, your automation script that you're assuring your audience is not an automation script is very apparently an automation script. I did not hear back from him, but I felt very good about it.
You're like, I'm at least offering something useful here. At the same token, or at the same time, like that to me almost strikes me in the same way of like, when you see someone begging for change and the sign says, yo, I want to get a beer. I'm like, hell yeah, you're honest. Totally. Like sometimes when I see those types of automated messages where it's like that, to me is so comical. It's great. Like you clearly just used this script and put no energy. I'd almost write back and be like, let's talk.
Yeah,
like,
man.
I got to know what's behind this.
Yeah. Another pro tip for me, for anybody listening who, my guess is nobody in my audience sells these sort of services. And again, there's nothing wrong with them. You can be assured one of the first questions I'll ask you is, hey, what has you wanting to work with coaches? And hey, what has coaching done for your life? And if they've never worked with a coach, I'm not buying anything from you because you don't know what I do. You don't know what I do. You don't know the value. You just see it as a place where you can make money.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had this discussion with a few people, and they've told me like, oh, I worked with a coach on launching my business. I've worked with coaches. Great. But people that sell to industries that don't have any experience with industries, especially like solopreneur stuff, it drives me crazy.
Yeah,
like,
it's very strange.
It's very strange, isn't it? It's very strange.
It's all, and there's just clearly no authenticity in it. It's just like, all right, here's a market opening, and I'm gonna, and look, like on some level, good for you that you've seen an opening and you're taking advantage of it for whatever. But also, like I don't want that. I don't want that.
Yeah, I forget one of my guests had told me this. They said it's there's a saying, and I don't know if you've heard this, but it's like anytime there's a gold rush, there's always a lot of people selling pickaxes to the miners.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the industry that props up in front of the industry that needs things.
Yeah. Well,
because coaching is a growing profession, and you're going to have a lot of people selling services to coaches, which cool, great. And authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dude.
We can probably spend the next hour. You can tell I'm very passionate about this topic, and we got way off, but let me bring that back. Having fun.
Yeah.
Excellence, connection, fun. There you go. Those are my three things. So I'm going to make this offer to anybody who wants to sell me something. If you lead with one of those three things, you're much more likely to get my time and energy.
You heard it here. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. All right, Eric, back to you. Great question.
Thanks for answering.
What are you passionate about?
I don't know. I almost feel like maybe some of the nerd out things fit back in that same pocket for me, but like, the first thing that's coming to my mind is like, and it's funny, I just had like a mentor coaching, like a group mentor coaching session this morning where kind of reflecting on like, I'll answer it in a story or whatever in a little bit of a way. Please. Like, right. There's another coach in that program that is like, thrives off of simplicity, and right where I appreciate and love simplicity for its application. Like I go deep. Like I love when I get clients that are just like ready to go philosophical, intellectual, macro, right? Like meaning of life, like really, really going broad. So I guess like what I'm trying to say is like the passion for me lies in like, what I'm not passionate about is small talk. I love to like, it has its use. It has its purpose. There's a way of building rapport and trust with people. And sometimes you got to start where everyone can feel a little more comfortable. You can't just walk up to someone and ask them, why are we here?
Hey, nice to meet you, Eric. What's the meaning of your life?
Yeah, I suppose you could. It would probably maybe half the time it gets answered. But anyway, like I'm super passionate about like really, really going deep because like our brains are capable of that, and I find that ability just so inviting to like really just keep exploring, and so. In a weird paradoxical way, I think there is simplicity in complexity. And because you find out, right, all these like great philosophers, like they come back to like, all I know is that what I don't know, or all I know is that I know nothing. And like, I'm just passionate about like going deep, man. That's
awesome. There it is. Yeah. Passionate about going deep. So anybody who runs into Eric, do not ask him about the weather.
I mean, I'm guilty of it, right? Like I said, like sometimes, but don't ask me about the weather.
It's funny you say the small talk because it'll be no surprise. Like I just like all talk. I'm down for small talk. I'm down for
talk,
a deep conversation. And this reminds me, do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I have watched a number of them, but
have you ever seen the episode with Ricky Gervais?
No.
Oh, it's so good. So Jeff and Susie, his manager, Jeff and Susie there. And this is this season where they're in New York.
Okay.
And they go to a dinner party and Larry's sitting next to somebody at the dinner party. And he says to the guy's like, he's making small talk. He goes, how often do you have sex with your wife? And the guy's like, wait, excuse me. He's like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm just trying to elevate small talk to medium talk.
Oh, I love that.
elevate, like elevate it from small to medium, not deep. And like the guy's like, excuse me, that's offensive. He's like, I'm just trying to elevate from small talk to medium talk.
I love that phrasing. The way of looking at it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's a very Larry David thing to be like, I'm just trying to elevate the conversation from small talk to medium talk, because he's also somebody who does not like small talk. If you've watched the show, you
get that from.
Yeah,
I mean, it's funny. Like, this is a whole other tangent, but like, right, growing up, like I was like I just grew up. I had two sisters. I grew up in a very, very empathetic, just like a really, like, I don't know how even where I'm going with this, but like I felt like there was like a Seinfeld or a Friends camp, and you kind of sat in one or the other.
Yeah.
Like, right. At least I think for some people there was a camp choosing.
Yeah.
And I was always in the Friends camp for whatever reason. It was just like, you're
such a nice, wholesome guy. That's what
I know. I just,
and I'll give you one guess as to which camp I would definitely be in if I had to choose one or the other. Yeah.
Dude, you are Larry David. Come on.
I that might be the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me on this show. And my wife my wife, when she listens to this, is going to be like, whoever this Eric dude is, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
Because she'll literally say to me, I'll be like, yes, I'm like Larry David. She's like, you're not Larry David. I'm like, no, but I kind of am.
He said I was. So
let's just can you imagine Larry David bitching about the LinkedIn automation stuff? That's such a Larry David thing. If he
100%,
he'd be like, yeah, it's a perfect topic for him.
I love it. It's so good. Yeah.
And now we're in small talk about television. So this is do you see what I did there, Eric? I de-elevated the conversation from medium talk back to small talk.
Small. Just chop me down. No, I love it.
Chop you down. All right. So Eric, what's the thing that you're most proud of?
Most proud. Ooh, pride's an interesting one. I'm most proud. Huh. Okay, two things come to my mind. The first one is interesting, right? Coach talk. The first one is like proud of something proud of a way of being. The other one's proud of a way of doing or doing. So the being is I ran one of my many past career paths that have, I think, brought me to the place I am and the type of coach I am and the ability to connect with people and relate to them in a lot. I've had a lot of different jobs and chased a lot of different things that kind of like really excited me. And one was running a concert venue. So I ran a music venue. I was a senior manager at a music venue on Long Island, like really top. They're top rated.
Where in Long Island?
Huntington.
What's the name of it?
It's called the Paramount.
Is it still there?
Yep. Still there.
It didn't close because of COVID?
Not, knock on wood. Not yet.
Nice.
Yeah. There was a venue. I was personal training full-time at the time when it opened in 2011. And I was like, I'll do anything. I'll mop the floors. I'll do security. I'll bar back. I don't give a shit. I want to work in a music venue in my hometown.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so I got in bar backing and I just worked my ass off because I like had this vision of running it. And eventually I would become the senior manager. So I was below the GM, but I was, in terms of anything non-production side, I had pretty good control over and whatever. My point is, I went through a lot of personal life stuff. Like I went through a divorce and it was like really, really traumatic. And it honestly was a big catalyst for like how I ended up choosing to go directly into coaching because coaching was so supportive to what I was going through at the time. Which is a whole other conversation, but I needed to get out of the venue because the nightlife, the culture of just like running a venue, it can just be like really exhausting and draining. And there's a lot of possibility for vices, let's say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
And I was just, I was beaten down and I knew I needed a change. And so I decided to leave. And the way I handled my exit And the way I handled my exit is something I am very proud of.
Nice.
I'm still on really good terms with all of the owners of the company, my old GM, and like staff members. I was just really, really proud of who I was and how I showed up to leave. And so that's one thing that comes to mind. The other one is like totally a doing thing. And my band Timeshares has done, I think we've done 3 tours over in Europe at this point. And one of them, we played a festival in Belgium, which is like one of the biggest, if not the biggest, punk rock hardcore festivals I've ever heard of. It's called Grows Rock. And we played to like a full tent of like 2,500 people, which at the time I was like this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like we play in my bass player's mom's basement. Like that's how we like wrote songs. Like,
right.
And this is just like blowing my mind. So like, I always think about that moment of like being on that stage in Belgium. Just like, holy shit, this is something that I'm definitely not going to forget. So
please tell me you threw your drumsticks at the end.
Oh, definitely not. Dude. All right. So talk about not passions and not passions. There's a lot of things I love about drums, and you do you, but like, I don't want to ever be known as someone who spins his sticks. I don't want to throw my sticks. There's like little things that like for me are like etiquette for personally, and like you do you again. Okay. But like go.
What about guitar players throwing their guitar pick?
Oh yes, hate it too.
It's more of a general thing. It's not just about drums. It's about like because it's arrogant. Like what is it that you don't like about it?
Yeah, like there's lots of ways you could view it, but my default has always been like, here's a piece of me because I know you want it, and that's like that's an uncomfortable kind of thing. And I also acknowledge that that's a limiting belief that I hold that's not very, doesn't offer me the all sides of the coin. But something about it's like.
All right, I'm gonna take this up a level, and then we'll move on because I'm super curious.
We're going to a large talk.
Artist? Yeah, we're gonna elevate from medium to large, but not really. This is still small talk in my opinion. But okay, good. I'm just curious, and it's my show, so I'm gonna ask anyway. What about somebody giving away a guitar during the concert? What do you think of that?
Interesting.
And I'm asking because I've seen somebody 8 times who always does this.
So, all right. Okay. All right. You know what? I'm going to answer that and the last question together. It's not, all right. It's not the content. It's the context, right? Like if you bring an 8-year-old kid up on stage and you give him your drumsticks, holy shit. It's like touching because like this kid may want to now play drums for the rest of their lives because of this experience, and you give a guitar to someone that like, is going to value it, and not put it up on eBay. And like, I think that's hopefully that answers the question. Cause like that can be really touching. It can be really amazing. It can also be like, I don't know. It could also be just sleazy if it's not for a context that that seems well-intentioned.
Do you want to know who does this?
Is it you? Am I?
No. Yes. The last time I was at the Garden, I gave away a guitar. No, Keith Urban does this. So I've seen Keith Urban. He's one of my wife and I's favorite. I've seen him 7 times. I just think I love his music, but more than that, he's just a phenomenal performer. Like the dude, he just knows how to work. He's like, and he's a lot like Garth Brooks, and like, if they're not enjoying themselves, they're the world's best actors. Like you can tell that these people love what they're doing. Like he's just fun, very engaging. So what he'll do near the end of every show, and you'll appreciate this as a musician, we're talking Keith Urban. The dude's got any guitar in the world he wants. So he's playing Les Paul, he's playing Strats, he's playing, he's got all sorts of stuff. And it's funny, he's going to give away a guitar because he pulls out like a sub $1,000 guitar. And I'm like, oh, this is the song he's going to give it away. But what he'll do is he'll start playing, and then, he'll have security around him. He'll walk into the audience and he will, near the end of the song, he'll sign it. Like they'll have like a, the last time I think he had a black guitar and they gave him like a silver Sharpie. He'll sign it and hand it to somebody. And I think it's pretty cool. And it doesn't really feel shticky, but it goes back to the being versus the doing. His being is really like, hey, like I'm really appreciative of who you are, and this is just part of who I want to be for people. And we're talking Keith Urban, man. Like the guy's very famous, extremely wealthy. Like, he doesn't pay for his own guitars. That's obvious too. But it's like, hey, like you came to the show and somebody's going to get this. I've seen Garth Brooks. He doesn't generally give away instruments, but he'll have somebody come up on stage and like sing to them, and then he'll like sign something. He'll usually pick somebody out of the audience who has a really cool sign or something. I like that stuff, and it's interesting about thinking about the drumsticks and the pick, because I've never thought about it. I've never thought about it as anything other than like, oh, just throwing their stuff. But you've actually opened up a lot for me to be like, what do I actually think about it? So I'm not sure. I think
it's, I mean, the way you painted the word that it came up for me as you were painting out is like, it's authenticity. Like that's right. Something that I'm always seeking. And like, you can tell that he is just like, I know, like, right. Even the way I said it before, like, I know you want this thing. There's a difference between like, I know how much this would mean to you. And right. There's like the authenticity that backs an action. The intention is like really, really important. Cause I've caught drumsticks before and been super stoked, Yeah. And it's like, it's hard. It's challenging to rate that, but
yeah. All right. A good convo, good medium to deep to back to all right. Let's take it back. Well, actually, let's elevate this further.
Okay.
This might be the most elevated question in the whole podcast.
Let's get high.
Let's get high, Eric. It was 420 3 days ago, and we are in New York, where it is now. It's legal, but I don't think it's quite legal yet, or something, right? Like it's on track. It's on track. It got legalized, but now there's a whole bunch of like stuff that has to happen.
Yeah, it'll be a bit, but
yeah. So, Eric, what's something that you're afraid might actually be true about you?
It's funny. I don't fear it because I have confronted it already. But like, I think, which is one of like the things that I love about self-work is like, there are these things that I might have used to be afraid, like, oh, that's not me. Then when you finally like acknowledge that it is you, that it is true, then you can move past it. And like that for me is, there's two things are coming up. One, I know that I have a tendency to people please, right? And right, and like have struggled most of my life up until I've really like put effort and work into attention there. But like deciphering, like, do I really want to do this? Is this something I really want? Am I doing this for someone else? That was a long battle, and I'm happy to say that I'm in a place now where like I acknowledge its truth, or my tendency, but I'm like I work through it. What are you gonna say?
No, I'm laughing because I'm picturing you be like, and for all you people listening, want something from me, don't bother. I'm telling you, no. Like it's a hard no. It's a hard pass.
Yeah,
well, I have a follow-up to this, and I know you have a second answer, and I want to hear it too, but I do want to ask you, and you kind of answered it.
Okay.
But the thing that you're afraid might be true about you is that you are a people pleaser, is what I heard, at a very baseline level.
Because it is true, yeah.
Yeah. What's the thing you do to compensate for that?
That's a good question. Man, you are a coach. I like this.
Surprise. Well, I mean, the audience probably knows this. I ask all my guests the same questions, but I never put this on the sheet. And I do have to share something that's really funny while you're thinking about this. I had one guest who's like, yeah, I don't do anything to compensate for that. I'm like, bro, like,
are you doing it right now?
I'm like, bro, you are not self-aware, because you obviously have never read a psychology book or know anything about how human beings work, because most of what drives us is avoiding pain, and the things that we are afraid are true about us is what generates a lot of our actions. And we finally got there, but I was just like, can we get a little bit deeper here? Because he's like, yeah, I don't think I do anything. I'm like, yeah. Let me give you the number of a therapist. Come back onto the show in a week.
I like that. Well, now you got me thinking, right? So if I'm being really honest about it,
I would like that. Yeah.
Right. The fear, the thing that I'm afraid is true is like, I'm afraid I won't be liked, respected, cared for. Right.
Yep.
And that the compensation is people pleasing.
Yeah. I think,
right.
Yeah.
So that's if you really go and like digging down, that's the thing.
In other words, elevate from medium.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're in high level. We're in
big talk. We go small, medium, large. Oh, we're in large talk. It's called large talk.
I hope that from now on, when if you continue this this sort of tier in your podcasting conversations, it's small, medium, and then 420.
420. What's going to make this a 420 conversation?
Yeah. How high can we get here? Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's it. What's interesting is if I think about what were you going to say?
No, I got nothing.
Because if I think about like the level up or like the people pleasing to compensate when I recognize that I am doing that, usually the tendency is to step back. That's but like, yeah, the deeper thing is fear, right? The really authentic fear of being alone, not being well respected, liked, cared for, rejection from the tribe, right? Like if we really drill down to what the deep fears are, we can see what the behaviors are serving. Like you said, to that, right? Like the people pleasing is not because I like people pleasing. It's because I'm avoiding being,
It's also likely the thing that was modeled for you as a child.
Totally. Yeah. All those learned. I mean, then we can come back to the nerd out neuropsychology part of the conversation where like up to 7 years old, we spend the majority of our lives in gamma wavelength, which is like when your brains are in a gamma wavelength, they're like these sponges.
That's right.
You don't have filters. They are just literally fucking sponges and they just soak up everything.
Yeah.
And we can't discriminate on what's useful or harmful versus helpful. And, so like a lot of those behaviors and tactics are learned.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you bring that up because I've heard stories of 5-year-olds saying a swear word. I've heard stories. I can't attest to this as anybody specific, but I've heard about 5-year-olds that will suddenly cuss, and you're like, oh God. This happened to us last week, and I'm like, she just said the S word. She has no idea what that means, and I know that she got it from me, and now I'm just a bad human. I'm bad. I'm in my shame spiral at this point. You're like, no. But and she also delivered it in a pretty appropriate context too, which was actually hilarious because she said it in a way that you or I would use it, and you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense that he said that right there. And I'm like,
yeah.
So she not only picked up the word, but she picked up like when you use it. I'm like, how? I'm like, yeah, her name is Hannah. I'm like, we don't use that word, which is ironic because like I use the word.
It's, oh man, I'm at some point in my life, I think I will be sitting in the parent seat and I'll probably have a whole different perspective on the type of person I want to be.
Yeah.
Because of that downstream effect. So I can only imagine the stuff that comes, the psychological challenges that come with like being a parent.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Eric, we're going to start to wrap up for today. And I got one more question for you.
Okay.
And one request of you.
Okay.
So the question I have for you is, how do you see the world?
Oof.
420. This is my 420 question.
Yeah, we're going high. Oh man, also similar to my 5-minute speech question in a sense, like it does change, but I think I think the real truth here is I see the world as really quite balanced. And I see and with that balance is like a lot of opportunity to choose a perspective that suits you and serves you towards like wherever you're aiming.
That's awesome.
But like, yeah,
that's
like
really cool.
The idea of balance has become like so central to my life. And like how I approach everything, how I've approached training, being a personal trainer, being a coach. I mean, you could probably relate to this. Like almost every single client I've ever had, when you drill down to what they're after, it's like peace, it's balance, and centeredness,
totally. Freedom.
Right? Yeah, freedom. And like a lot of those things exist in a state of neither pole. They exist in juggling the two poles.
That's right.
And like having the dance of back and forth, not being totally driven or totally patient. Like having a balance of the two. And so like, I don't know, that's how I see the world. And I think there's like there's so much beauty in that, because we can, when you acknowledge that you contain all aspects of both good and bad, you can navigate the world a lot more, peacefully.
I love that. That's a brilliant answer. I have so many, I'd love to go down the rabbit hole with you, and we'll have to do that. We'll have to either have you back on the show or we'll do it privately. Well, and what we'll do is, and I lied, I'm going to relate it to back to Clifton Strengths. We'll have you take Clifton Strengths, and then we'll relate your answer to the Clifton Strengths, and then we'll pigeonhole you into like, this is who you are, Eric.
Yes.
You're this Enneagram, which, by the way, I want to share something that I think you'll get a kick out of it before we wrap up. I have a joke with one of my really good friends. She's the coach I was talking about. She's, phenomenal. And I'm always, whenever clients ask me the how-tos, I have this funny thing that I say. I'll be like, and if it's a moment of levity, right? If it's something that's serious, I won't say this, but if it's levity, I'm like, well, they're like, well, how do I do this? And I'm like, well, you go to your browser and you type in, how do I blank? Like whatever the question is. And I said, if you don't find the answer on the internet, I have my 84-step process coming out as an ebook next week. You can download it for $27 on my website. And I say that because the whole idea of like, how do I find balance? I'm like, just go read the ebook, or go to Barnes and Noble and just pick up a book. And that's all you need. That's all you need, right? $12.99. Like you don't need a coach or a therapist or a mentor. Like you're good, man. Like, I'm like, no, like it comes from within. Mm-hmm. And so what I heard for you is I think it's a reflection of your self-work that you've been kind of weaving throughout this, is you are working on finding your balance. Like you've been working on it, and it's always going to be a work in progress, but realizing that it's not the polarity there is always going to be there. And actually in the middle is where you're going to achieve the most, make the most money, have the most happiness, have the most freedom, peace, ease, whatever you're looking for. Yeah. And it's also really interesting to look at with high performing clients, because I think you and I both serve people that you would look and say, like, these are high achievers, they're high performers, they do a lot, they make a lot of money, like they do these things. And that's usually what they're looking for at the end of the day, is not a promotion to make more money. Like, yes, that's part of it, but it's not the whole thing ever.
Well, because like what comes with that? What are you actually gaining from that?
Right. Well, like freedom. I mean, with money, it's usually freedom.
Yeah.
Or like, but power usually equates to, in some ways, it's like you actually get more freedom because you get people to do stuff for you. Like in a very selfish way, it can be that way. Yeah. Really cool answer.
Yeah. I appreciate the response too. Cause like you said, we could probably wrap on this for a while, but like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll let it lie there.
Well, let it linger. The offer I would make is to the audience is, if you want to, if if anything in the episode resonates with you, but specifically here, if you have opinions, Eric and I would love to hear from you. So if you reach out to Eric, reach out to me, just like to hear your opinion on these things. Like I get feedback from my episodes. They're like, hey, I heard your guest talking about this. I had an opinion on it. I love to hear those opinions, because it's just you and I riffing here. And it's totally. I think we're both people that are quite open to others' opinions. Like I love other people's opinions, because I don't want to just be. I used to want to be up here, and I still want to be up here at home with my wife. Don't tell her. But generally I'm like, I want to hear what you see that I don't see. I really want to get to know that part about like the different perspectives. It's so valuable. So on that note, Eric, how can the audience find you? And audience, I will put everything you're about to share. I'll put it in the show notes. Cool. So you can connect Eric. You go to my website, go to, iTunes, Apple, Spotify, wherever. This will all be in the show notes, but how can people connect with you?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, easiest is my website is strengthandlifecoach.com. Likely going to be changing that soon, but that's currently how you can get in touch with me. My Instagram, I'm super active on. The handle there is also strength and life coach. You can email me, Eric at Strength and Life Coach. LinkedIn, Eric Bedell. Yeah. And like, just to reiterate what you just said, so it's said from me also, like, always welcome, always commentary, questions, concerns, thoughts, always welcome. And yeah.
And if you hit Eric up on LinkedIn, you can be assured that you will get an automated message back from him.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
You know what we got to do? This is what we got to do. Talk about finding market holes and opportunities. What you and I have to do is create an automated video response, like using tech AI stuff. So it's like, hey, so-and-so, like video.
That would be amazing. I would not be surprised if that's out there.
It has to exist.
But you can make it like really, really cheesy. Be like, hey, Eric, thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, like everything about the face changes to say the name.
Yeah, what like deep fake videos? Have it be like a famous person and have them say like, "Hey, this is Tom Cruise on behalf of Eric Bedell."
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
that's awesome. Cool, man. Well, you know what's coming next. Love if you would leave us with some quick words of wisdom, and these words of wisdom should put on a Post-it note for those who are too young to know what a Post-it note is. It's a little piece of paper. It's a little square. If you're really young, or an Instagram post, not the text, the graphic. What do you got for us?
I think about this all the time. How do you summarize a human being's thoughts that are so complex and nuanced into a Post-it note phrase? And again, that would probably change on the daily for me too. But the thing, since language isn't poor language isn't Hannah's not here. She's not listening to this.
And she will not listen to it.
I think probably the thing that's coming up for me right now most is fuck accomplishments and live in process.
That's awesome.
Because
I love that.
Oh, dude, it is just that way of thinking is revolutionized like the way I approach life. And every client I work with, we inevitably get there. They get there where they need to get there. And I think everyone discovers that when you let go of the outcome needing to be so like create a goal, create a vision, but like if you can find a way to love the process, not only do you enjoy your life a lot more and the experience, but like you find that you don't really even need to get to that outcome you thought you needed. And fuck accomplishments, live in process.
I love a good cuss to end it. That's phenomenal. Yeah. Eric, my man, I am so glad we got to do this. Thank you so much for being on. I wish you the very best in everything you're up to. And you can count on me reaching out to you after the episode and get some Clifton strength stuff. And there, I did it again. I had to do it.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it. It's been so great.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Talking to Cool People with Jason Frizzell. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook and give us a shout out or take a moment to leave a review on iTunes. If something from today's episode piqued your interest and you'd like to connect, email us at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com. We love hearing from our listeners because you're cool people too.